Okay, enough of me. Now it's time for Bill. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do this thing. I had every intention of having all my thoughts together yesterday, and then I got involved with my grandson instead, and we took apart an old piece of equipment together in the garage, and I didn't get it all put together. So I have a bunch of notes. I had 25 or 30 pages of stuff, and I've got a few notes, but I promised not to run late. Thank you, by the way. Look around yourself. You're sitting in a place, in a church, where people actually came to hear an atheist. Atheism is an interesting thing. It's not anti-theism. It's atheism. I don't believe there's one. I don't think there's one. Agnosticism and atheism often get confused. Agnosticism is, I don't know, can't tell, don't know, maybe or never be able to know. And I think that's pretty much a conclusion most of us have to come to after a while. We're just not set up as human beings to be able to understand all this stuff. Quantum mechanics, for example, I don't even trust the people who do the math. You know what I'm saying? This makes no sense to me, what they're doing. How people can be religious or non-religious in certain circumstances are hard for me to figure out. But I do have great news for you atheists among us. 2 years ago, when last time I spoke to you, and none of you remember that, that's why I'm here again, you see. Atheists were number 50 on the 50 ranking of 50 kinds of people that people trusted enough to elect. Atheists were 50. I have good news for you, we have improved. We're no longer number 50. 49, but that wicked evil socialism has fallen to 50. The Muslims, by the way, are fighting it out for 49th. They're also not trustworthy, as we're not. Atheists are not. Let me read something from Christopher Hitchens. I'm not going to read much today, but this was so clear to me that I want to not miss anything up. Our belief, atheists, is not a belief. Our principles are not a faith. We do not rely solely on science and reason, because those are necessary rather than sufficient factors. Huh? Got the difference? But we distrust anything that contradicts science or reason. We may differ on many things, but what we respect is free inquiry, open-mindedness in the pursuit of ideas. Reason and science are necessary but not sufficient, and that's going to be probably the whole conversation today is about that. I'm a skeptic. My method is free thought. My conclusion is atheism. My conclusion is agnosticism, and my opinion is atheism. So I'm an atheist, and that's my opinion. You might be a Methodist, that's your opinion. That's fine. As long as we don't mess around with one another, we seem to be in good shape. And that's very good in this particular church, because you don't know who you're sitting next to. Really, you have no idea about the cosmology of the people who are sitting next to you. They may be bird lovers, they may be popsicle lovers, worshipers of low-fat yogurt. You just can't tell. I want to apologize to atheists in advance today. You may hear some stuff from me that you don't expect. I was going to get a sign here that says Bill's an atheist, so that as I started talking later, you could say, what is he? I remember being in your place now and having someone say to me, say to all of us, I was an atheist, but the context was I've improved. Well, I'm an atheist, and I'm not looking for any more improvement, and that means I'm not telling you anything today about an approved or improved atheism. It's just a story. I want to tell you a story. I came here because my wife drugged me. But I came here and stayed because I recognized that it was a humanist kind of church. Now, humanists are just folks who don't believe in the supernatural. We believe that all of the things we came up with, you know? Thou shalt not steal didn't start with somebody writing it on a tablet. Start with some guy saying, you know, if I steal, you steal. And if I don't steal, maybe you won't steal. I guess stealing's not a bad No, it's not a good thing to do. And it got on some tablets, and then it got religious. But it's not religious. It's how people get along with one another. For those of you who don't know about Unitarian Universalism, from about the early part of the 20th century was a time of humanism in the Unitarian Church, except for the Northeast, which remained Christian, and remains Christian, pretty much in their Unitarian fashion anyway. But the humanists, over half the signers of the Humanist Manifesto in 1933 were Unitarians. So we have a long history of being humanist, and that is not supernatural. When the join between Unitarians and Universalists occurred in 1961, the Universalists brought with them something called love. And not the humanists didn't have love before, but that wasn't one of our major, reason was our major output. So when the Unitarians and the Universalists joined, there was a period of readjustment, which is still lasting until this moment. So when I'm talking here, I am also talking as an atheist who has been exposed to Universalists. Our present interim minister is a Universalist. And by that, he means love. Love everybody. That we're called to love everybody in religious language. So I joined a group, or helped set up a group called SHAG, which was Secular Humanists, Atheists, Agnostics. And we were going to get together, by gosh, and we were going to talk about important stuff. And we did. 10 years on, it was a marvelous thing. And I learned so much from having that other thing other than a Sunday morning activity. I would go someplace and somebody would say, I don't think that's right. I said, well, you don't? Well, what do you think is right? And they would tell me, and I'd think, damn, something to that. SHAG meetings produced a lot of really interesting changes in me over an 8 or 9 year period. I couldn't tell you any one particular day when it happened, but I just woke up 9 years later and went, what? One is, unlike my previous thought, human beings are emotional beings. We're rational as a side effect. We now have science that tells us that our emotions make decisions for us that our rational mind then approves and takes credit for. But we do this with, we call it our heart. There's nothing happening here, I don't think, although people say, oh, some electrical signals. Yeah, there's some electrical signals in my watch, too, but doesn't hurt me. I found that we're more emotional than we are reasonable. And it's a real struggle to be reasonable, not so much a struggle to be emotional. But without emotion, there's not much going on. In fact, it was a SHAG group, it was Bud Clough and the SHAG group over a period of years that convinced me that religion had great responsibility, that we are storytelling animals, and that religion tells a neat story. Look, at least some of the stories are neat. Some have to do with a lot of, smiting, but still. And we need stories, we need morals. But by that I mean, what is the right thing? How do we communicate what the right thing to do is to other folks? And I listened, and finally after a couple of years, I said, maybe you're right. Maybe we are emotional beings, and religion has a place. Then I started looking for all the humanist architecture and all the humanist music and all the humanist paintings and all the humanist cathedrals that had been built, and I couldn't find them. And I thought, when I go into a monastery, or a cathedral, there's something about the architecture there that convinces me that this is a special place. And the vastness, the music, the art, but there's no place I can go as a humanist for that kind of stuff. I'll go to the museum, Bill. Well, I learned that that's not the case. So I learned a little bit more about how religion affects people and how smart religions are about using things like emotion to catch us. So we tried to do that here, but you're too smart. But you still need that. We still need that kind of emotion. Second thing I learned that was in the path toward wherever I'm going. And by the way, this is just a little talk on the way station to the next place I'm going. If you think I've got it figured out, thank you. Thank you. Second thing I really found out was that all humans agree pretty much on the same basic values. We just weight them differently. There's a fellow named Jonathan Haidt, who's now at the New York University, but was in Virginia. And he set up he was curious what was the difference between liberals and conservatives, and he found 5 basic things that really affect us. We are affected by how empathetic we are. We're affected by how much tradition we believe in. We're affected in how much authority we're willing to accept. 4 or 5 things. Turned out that the liberals were all on we want to fix suffering and we want to fix injustice. That was where we put all our emotional energy. The conservatives put emotional energy there too, but they put a lot of emotional energy on authority and tradition. We didn't put that much energy on authority and tradition. I was raised in the 60s. We were supposed to go take over the administration building, you know. I went to the University of California, Santa Barbara, where we took over the student union, which I thought was much better, had fresh drinks and stuff. But all humans share the same regards, just in different measures. And I thought, that's interesting, because I thought those people were different. But they're not. Then I found out, then I moved toward, well, if we're different, how are we different? And I started doing a lot of thinking and talking and listening. Now, some of you who know me said more talking than listening, but trust me, I did do some listening. Human beings are social animals, but we're not like any other social animals. We're not pack animals. Look at us here. There's more than a pack. We're not herd animals, necessarily, unless we have some crazes going on like the hula hoop, you know. We're a very different kind of social animal. We're a herd of packs, if you want to look at it that way. And you're a member of multiple packs. You're a member of your church pack, and you're a member of your work pack and your family pack and that kind of stuff. But you're also part of America, which is this huge herd. Very peculiar social animals. But this consciousness that human beings have make our relationships with one another more complicated, perhaps, than the polar bear, or the grouse, or the sparrow, or the fox, or the wildebeest. Our consciousness gives us some ways that we can deal with one another that perhaps the wildebeest don't have. We developed a social contract. We generally know what the right thing to do is. We drive on one side of the road and not on the other. We stop when the light is red. Those are parts of social contract. Don't steal your neighbor's tools. That's also part of the contract. Don't hit somebody's car and then run away. Lots of things in the social contract. But that was developed by humans learning to live with one another. It wasn't given to you by some precious deity or by some holy book, some self-authenticating book. You know what I mean by that? That means, well, here's what it says in the book. And they say, well, yeah, how do you know this book is right? Well, it says right over here, right on the next page, it says I'm right. So, okay, that's a good way to buttress your argument. And the fourth and final thing I learned, final thing, was that rational discussion and rational evidence does not lessen beliefs. Beliefs are something different entirely. In fact, the experiences now tell us that people hold on even tighter to their beliefs when people give them information that reflects that their belief is incorrect. It makes people even more determined to be who they are. So we put all that together, and you say we're social animals, and I've got these people that I really love, and they like the same kind of stuff at a little different rate than I do, and there's nothing that I can say to them rationally that's going to change their mind. But more importantly, there's anything they're going to say to me that's going to change my mind either, unless I let them. So what's the whole purpose? So where does that all leave me as an atheist, all that stuff? I went through this whole period, and I learned these things that I didn't know before, or if I knew before, I hadn't put them together. I now think that we're social animals ruled by emotion operating in a meaningless universe. A meaningless universe incapable of being concerned for us. Atheism's tough. It's tough. There's no ferry at the end of the dock, to take you to the other side. There's no waking up someplace to a judgment day when all the other people get what they deserve. You know what I mean? We're going to sing a song at the end, by the way, which is all about that, those other people getting what they deserve. That feeling has made me much more comfortable with your stories. All of us have stories. We tell stories to ourselves to keep ourselves sane. We're facing death. None of you will be here in 100 years. Death. It's tough. My God. Why wouldn't you make up a story? I'm making up stories as I speak now. What's going to happen after you die, Bill? Well, I don't know. But it'll be good. How do you know that, Bill? I don't know anything. I'm just making a story here, Leave me alone. These comforting stories I have no problems with unless they are just crazy. Okay. So I go up to anybody in here and I say, I'm going to tell you some things. Your spouse is cheating on you, number one. And number two, frozen yogurt makes you invisible. There's not a single person in here who wouldn't go, whoa, wait a minute. Forget about the frozen yogurt. Tell me about that spouse thing. Why do you want to know that? I need some proof. Why do you need proof? Because I don't believe that stuff unless you tell me. Okay. Same person I come up to and I say, fella died for you 2,000 years ago. He was really God. He came back down. And he ran around with us a while and he got a couple of guys with him and then they killed him. And then he died, and 3 days later he came back to life, and he's going to come back to get us all sooner or later. What do you think about that? Oh yeah, that's good. Do you need any proof for that? Apparently not. Because it's a story that makes sense to our emotion. I want that to happen. One of the famous atheists who used to write for Scientific American said, I've got a story, and that story is I'm going to see my family after I die. I can't convince you of that. I have no facts. It just makes me feel better about being alive if I think I'm going to see my family. So, okay, that seems like that's a pretty good coping mechanism to me. Now, if you ran for office and you wanted to put that sort of thing out for everybody that they had to believe, that's another story. But we want stories because they help us. Stories bind people together. What stories bind Unitarian Universalists? Not all at once. We do have stories. We get, for the price of almost nothing, stories from every religious tradition that there is out there. And we get to pick those stories, and we get to understand what they mean to us. And that's the only thing you can do. When somebody writes something, they are done with it, and then from then on, it is interpreted by everybody else for whom it is important. And the person who wrote it has nothing else to do. I like the story that says, against all odds, across the universe, from Big Bang to Little Bang. Any children in the room? You know what came before Big Bang? Big foreplay. I'm sorry, it just came to me, and you'll have to explain that. I'm sorry, I don't think he was listening. I like the story that says we're all in this together, and the odds against this happening are so damn huge that we have got nothing to do except be happy about this. This is pretty damn amazing that you and I are here setting up mud. It's what you are. It's what we all are, setting up mud. And our components and other arrangements make very interesting things, but they don't make us. What a great deal. Every day you wake up, poof, you're in the universe. You're not going to be here forever, but you're in it, and it's cool. So, religion offers a sense of belonging, provides a tradition, which can be comforting. Tradition can be comforting. I learned that from Boy Scouts. I never camped in my life until my son was a Boy Scout, and then I became a Boy Scout leader. and I was expected to know this stuff. Knots and ropes are not very useful in the day of bungee cords and Velcro, but still you learn how to tie knots because it's a tradition. Religion offers us a discipline that challenges us to be more than we are. Religion offers us a commitment, an obligation. We make an obligation with each other. Those are things that you can't do on your own. We're social animals, and we make these connections with ourselves. Jews, look at duty. Duty to God. God made us, we're his people, and we've got to do what he says. Christians came along and said, well, let's modify that a bit. We're really about love. Turn the other cheek, neighbor, dun-dun-dun-dun. Muhammad came along and said, it's about submission. It's about submitting to the will of Allah. What do Unitarians offer? And many sermons that I've read, many articles that I've read, say our main focus is gratitude. That's what we have to offer. When somebody catches you and says, what do Unitarians believe? We've even been real thankful to everything that's happening. Man, I'm alive, and you are too. And we're thinking, and we're talking, and we're having fun, and we laugh, and I'm in love. Setting up mud in love. Fascinating. Gratitude. I can so easily be an atheist and grateful for the chance to be here, conscious in this tradition with you. I'm still an atheist. I'm a happy atheist, not a sad one. I don't want God on my money. I don't want God in the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't want God in the courthouse. I'm an atheist. But, I'm an atheist who wants to be with other people. And an atheist who really wants to hear other people's stories and really wants to know why they think we're here. Why do you think we're here? I haven't got much of an idea. I'm going to leave us early because I refuse to answer questions about any kind of atheism stuff. But we're going to sing as our final hymn, and this is a little thing I'll talk about as well, a song called Farther Along. Now, Farther Along is a Southern gospel tune. It's not in our hymnal. There are many of the songs of my very brief religious background that are in our hymnals. But Farther Along is a wonderful song. It contains all that bitterness that I was talking about, all that damn, I wish that these people would get what they deserve stuff. But it also says that there is a chance that farther along, maybe I'll understand more. Now, I think that all of us will understand everything there is to understand when we die. And if you think that you go on to someplace else, bon voyage. And if you think that you're going to be judged and everybody else is going to be judged, get a good lawyer. If, like me, you think that when I close my eyes, that's the end, then that's the end. And there won't be me around to say, oh, darn, I wish I were. One brief story. I have to. Not all of you know about how I became an atheist. You know, it's like, how'd you become a fitness? Well, I became an atheist when I was 8 years old. This is the third grade, and my sister decided I should go to vacation Bible school, which was okay with me, because I could walk to the church. So I walked to the church. This is in a small town in Texas, and walked to the church. It's third grade. My girlfriend in the third grade was Marcia Boischmeyer. Marcia, this is a small town in Texas. Marcia was the smartest girl in the third grade, I tell you. She was just I loved her. I really loved her. It's only a third grader can, you know. I got a special Valentine on Valentine's Day and wrote to Marcia. Well, I said, Marcia, come on to Sunday school with me. She said, I can't. Why not? Because I go to Temple. My folks have to drive to Amarillo, which was a long way away, to go to Temple. I said, well, Temple, Schmimple, man, just come to Sunday school with me, man. No, she couldn't do it. So I learned a little bit about what Judaism was, not much. Marcia was Jewish, that's all I really cared about. So as if this vacation Bible school, and they were convinced to tell me someplace in the middle about all the people who weren't going to make it to heaven. Now, this is a particular little Baptist church in a small town in Texas. So they started right at the top. Catholics, no, not going to heaven. Jews, kill Jesus, not going to heaven. Methodists, Presbyterians, Lutherans, Episcopalians, all out of it. They're gone. In fact, many other Baptist churches are gone too. If they're not we're the foot washing kind, and they are the full immersion folks. This is not real. But anyway, I remember that day because when she said Jews weren't going to go to heaven, I didn't know what heaven really was all about. But if Marcia's not going, what? So I remember walking along the railroad track, walking back home, kicking rock, thinking, Marcia Voischmeyer not going to go to heaven. And I remember looking in the podium back there, and I saw the bottle of Welch's grape juice, and that really wasn't blood. And I saw a box of wafers. That really wasn't body. And I thought, these people are crazy. And that was the end. That was me. So please, I leave you with this last with this last quote. It's the one I left you with last time. It's one I just love, from H.L. Mencken. It says, "We must respect the other fellow's religion. We must respect the other fellow's religion. But in the same manner and to the extent that we respect his opinion that his wife is beautiful and his children smart." And so I say to you and to all folks who have a different religion, I'm glad you think your wife's beautiful and your children are smart. That creates in me no sense of obligation.